again, thanks everyone for joining tonight's event. We're really excited to see such a great turnout for this issue. So tonight we will be talking about a very timely and important issue, and that issue is the topic of water privatization. And this is an issue that's going to be on the ballot in a couple different municipalities across New Jersey. So tonight we will have an opportunity to talk to some experts on this issue. And we will also be hearing from some community members who are on the ground, talking about what this means in their community to fight for public water systems. So just as a point of housekeeping, we are recording and we will be sharing a video of this. So we would ask everyone if you could please stay on mute while we are hearing from our presenters, and then we will have a Q&A portion where we will have an opportunity for people to raise their hands and ask questions that you all might have for our different presenters for tonight. So first up, we are going to hear from Food and Water Watch's own Mary Grant. She leads our Public Water for All campaign, and she's going to be talking with us tonight about the issue of privatization, the risks of privatization, and some warning signs to look out for in your community on this issue.
Thanks, Kate, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. So to start us off, I want to provide an overview of water privatization, just to help level set before we dive in more depth. First, let's begin with a definition. Water privatization can be used broadly to talk about various ways corporations control water resources. But this evening, we're focusing on the sale of municipal water and sewer systems to for-profit corporations. Nationally, private control of water isn't that common. 87% of people who are on a water system receive their service from a publicly owned system, usually their local government. And more than 95% of people get their wastewater treatment from a publicly owned treatment works. There are a lot of reasons why public water prevails nationally, from control of decision-making and investments to lower costs and better regional coordination. Overall, historically, public water has led to better access and improved water quality, helping to prevent the spread of diseases. But there are big regional differences in control of water, and New Jersey is an outlier. In New Jersey, already nearly 40% of people get their water from a corporate provider. Most of these privately owned systems have always been private. So on the next slide, you can see a map of drinking water systems in New Jersey. On the next slide, the green are public. American Water is in orange. On the next slide, yep, and then Veolia is in red. Aqua is in pink, and then there's a smaller local companies in yellow. Also on this map, we've highlighted 6 communities considering privatization that we know of right now. As we'll talk more about later, at least 3 of these will go to the ballot for public approval this November. So what's at stake when you privatize your water or sewer system? The heart of the issue is about who controls the system, who makes the big decisions about what investments to prioritize and where, and who gets their lead pipes replaced first. How do we charge for service, and so much more. It's about accountability and transparency in those decisions. With public control, you have access to meetings where the decisions are being made and direct communication with the decision makers. You can email the mayor, you can email the town council, but with private control, the public, you are cut out. You can't just walk into the corporate boardroom. You can't Oprah the CEO of American Water. And what we know is that private water tends to be so much more expensive than local government service. On average, among large systems, private utilities charge 59% more than local governments charge for the same amount of water. Private ownership is the single biggest factor associated with higher rates. It is the key reason, and the key reason for this is corporate profit. Water corporations earn a rate of return on their investment of around 10%. They are allowed to add that markup onto the cost of every single improvement project and new acquisition. The big corporate players are very aggressive right now, particularly in New Jersey. They are targeting cash-strapped communities, sewer systems where they already own drinking water systems, and they untuck in acquisitions where they buy water and sewer systems right next to their existing service area. And these companies are focused on states where they have successfully passed corporate-friendly laws and regulations, like in New Jersey. So on the next slide, you can see this list of key targets. And then on the slide after that, there's a list of some of the corporate policies that they're pursuing across the country. I won't run through these, but we will discuss this more next. And so lastly, I want to talk about warning signs. If your system isn't up for sale this fall or already in private hands, what should you look out for in your local community to get out ahead of any privatization scheme? These companies often track infrastructure issues and make pitches based on local news stories. Some, like American Water, are speculating that the new PFAS regulations in particular will drive more communities to privatize. These companies can target municipalities with very well-run systems if the mayor wants to use that money to pay down other municipal debts, such as for redevelopment projects. And another thing to watch out for is the mayor's politics and activities. These companies can fund conferences like the Mayor's Water Council to pitch privatization. They may wine and dine elected officials. Sometimes, as you'll hear about later, the mayors might even work for a water company or have direct financial ties. That said, communities can and have stopped water and sewer privatization. More than 100 communities across the country have defeated privatization. You'll hear later on about some of those strategies. So right now I'm going to turn it back to you, Kate. Thanks.
Thanks, Mary. Next up, we are going to hear from Jean Fox. Jean Fox was Commissioner of the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, the BPU, from January 2002 till September 2014, and served as President and member of the Governor's Cabinet for the first 8 years. And Jean is going to talk to us about why New Jersey is seeing a spike in water privatization and how are regulatory protections being weakened. So thank you, Jean.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary, for that opening. It was wonderful. I worked at the BPU for 24 years, and so I really do know this well. I was civil service. I was director of the Water and Sewer Division back in the 80s. So I know it well. New Jersey is one of 12 states now have fair market value laws. Ours was passed in 2015, which is the Water Infrastructure Protection Act. I didn't like it at the time, and I was out of government at that point. These laws are really detrimental for customers. They benefit the utilities who want to increase their rate base. Consumer advocates around the country, certainly in New Jersey, the ratepayer advocate, have consistently challenged them because they are not beneficial to customers. Fair market value change is what we've been doing for over 100 years for utility regulation. So it's a big change. How the systems are valued, what they're worth, and it leads to substantial, in many cases, increase in customer rates. American Water Works and other companies such as Aqua lobbied strenuously in Trenton and also in Harrisburg, for instance, for this change. And so it's an example of investor-owned utilities like American have been weakening the responsibilities and the powers of the commissions, of the utility commissions. The role of the BPU and all utility commissions is really to regulate utility industries so we can reassure the public. There's a whole system that's been developed for over 100 years of how to do that. I'll give you an example. This is not water. This is Exelon, which is the largest electric utility in the country, largest utility, who back in 2004, when I was president of the BPU, proposed to merge with PSEG, which is the largest electric gas company in New Jersey. Chicago would have been the main office, jobs would have been lost, less money would be given to New Jersey nonprofits, customer service would have been lessened. It was definitely not beneficial to New Jersey and our customers. Other regulatory bodies, federal and state bodies approved it. New Jersey BPU did not because it wasn't beneficial, and that was in 2006. Exelon finally pulled that petition. American and others justify their fair market value laws and different surcharges on water and sewer waste because there are substantial infrastructure needs that need to be fixed in many systems, in most systems. And what the companies did, they did an end run around the utility commissions, went right to the legislatures, arguing it was necessary to fix these systems, and then therefore they should take them out, and that's why the law should be passed. Well, it was to rescue failing water systems. This law is so broad that any system could fall under it. And what they do is utilities have what their capital investments. They earn a rate of return on that capital investment. This law allows them to substantially increase that capital investment and therefore what the money they're making. So the shareholders get more money. They also love surcharges. Surcharges don't have to go through a rate case. They're just automatic, almost automatic every year. And there's a lot of surcharges, so ratepayers' costs go up much more routinely than if it's just a rate case. One of the biggest problems is the fair market value laws are used to acquire well-run publicly owned water systems, water and sewer systems. And so the first utility they tried to take over when the law was passed was Atlantic County Utilities Authority. Rick Dovey, bless his heart, you're going to hear from, stopped that by educating people. There are many systems that have recently acquired in Jersey, Haddonfield, Long Hill, Manville, Somerville. They needed repairs, but they weren't failing utilities. Earlier this year, American Water asked for a rate increase that would have increased rates by an average of 17%. Fortunately, the BPU didn't allow that, but they granted the average of 8.5%, although in some towns like Haddonfield and Mount Ephraim, they'll be having a much more substantial increase. So basically, we don't need to weaken regulatory commissions. They have oversight of utilities for good reason, American and other investor-owned utilities. And we need to fix the water and sewer systems, but that can be done without having a rate of return, which adds a substantial cost on top of the cost to fix these systems. We really have to stop eroding the utility commission's regulatory authorities. I just want to note that Bob Smith, who's been a senator forever, chairs the Environment Committee, he voted against the New Jersey Fair Market Value Law in 2015, and Senator Smith has now introduced a bill to repeal it. So I think we really can protect customers from the issues of not allowing these customers to have increased rates because of the privatization. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. All right, next up, we are going to hear from Rick Dovey. Rick served as the president of the Atlantic County Utilities Authority for 33 years. He retired in 2023. And Rick is going to give us insight to how communities can defeat privatization and talk about winning strategies and tactics. So passing to you, Rick. Thank you. You're on mute.
Recording in progress.
Is responsible for wastewater collection regionally and treatment, here in Atlantic County in the Atlantic City area. So my first real brush with privatization is that I became aware, I want to say around 2014, that there was American Water and Hopewell Water were working behind the scenes through our county commissioners, then freeholders, to lay the groundwork for you could sell the ACOA and make a lot of money. It would go to county government to be used for any number of different things. So the tactic and strategy was simple, first of all, was to begin to educate the community and the elected officials at the local level about what that really meant. This isn't just passing off something and getting rid of a government agency. You're losing all that oversight that Jean just talked about and was in the introduction, was also described as how accountable public agencies are and continue to be, but also the financial impacts of privatization. That basically you're handing over for, if it's a full sale forever, many of these are also structured as concession lease agreements that might go 39, 40, 50 years. Basically, you've handed over the ownership and responsibility for managing either a water system, a sewer system, or one that is both. And that's the financial controls. And what Gene Fox just talked about with the rate of return on capital investment is basically you can get an owner who overbuilds because they're guaranteed that they'll make money on capital improvements. So it's an effort to educate people and the media. Newspapers used to be who you would, and reporters, newspaper reporters, who you would try to educate about what this meant. More recently, so we were successful basically in overcoming around 2015 that effort at the county level here in Atlantic County. Both the County Board of Freeholders and the county executive backed off and did not pursue selling the AC way, because behind the scenes we had educated the towns, the municipalities, the elected officials, and the public and the media, and in special interest groups and supporters to do that. But within a couple years, the pressure and the dynamics and the change in law began to pop up here in Atlantic County and South Jersey, and continues. First, Egg Harbor City, one of the poor and cash-strapped towns with an old sewer and water system, was approached by New Jersey American. In fact, they were the first, I think, through the WIPA law that was approved. And so I live in Egg Harbor City, and we now, for just over a year now, we have New Jersey American own and operate our water system and sewer system locally. Already, rates have gone up. We, instead of paying quarterly, we pay monthly, and folks are, it's kind of hard to compare, but everybody's figuring out, hey, I'm paying more. There were alternative ways to move forward on that. There was no local community residential awareness of how significant and the educational process about that. But so unsuccessful there. But in 2019, the city of Pleasantville began to pursue this. Now, the city of Pleasantville is the poorest and highest taxed municipality in Atlantic County. They have a sewer system that's 100 years old, collection system. They used to have a treatment plant that was regionalized and went the AC way in 1978. But the city had not invested in pump station upgrades and sewer line improvements over the last 20 or 30 years. And there were some significant improvements necessary, but the city was strapped. And so they went out, got a proposal from New Jersey American. New Jersey American offered $13 million up front to buy the system. This is just at the beginning of COVID. There was no public awareness that this was going on. The city rejected that because through the grapevine, they heard there were other privatization utilities, private companies interested. And the city regrouped and went out to RFP. They got two proposals, one again from New Jersey American. This is all during the period of time when COVID was just breaking out, and there were no public meetings, really very little public awareness, if any, of what was going on and the significance of it. The long and short of it is what changed in 2020. Pretty much the whole city council and the mayor and all the professionals were on board with moving forward with a concession agreement, 39 years with Bernhardt Capital, a company from Louisiana, and they introduced a concession agreement, and then the public became aware. And in fact, many people who were on this participating in this forum helped to turn things around in just a matter of 6 months. So most importantly, were residents began to get educated, citizens who've lived in Pleasantville for years. The Food and Water Watch participated, New Jersey AEA, the Pueblo Unico of Atlantic City, a Hispanic group, and Pleasantville has a large Hispanic population, and Gene Fox, behind the scenes, began to educate the elected officials, the city councilman people, and the mayor about why this was a bad idea. They were about to sign on to a 39-year lease concession agreement where after the third year, there would be a 5% rate increase every year built into the agreement, plus the opportunity for other larger increases for other large capital expenses. The public really responded to the pressure, and it turned around and it finally was voted down after being introduced within a couple of months by a 3-2 vote. Now, it was a pretty close vote, but it was successful. And most importantly, the city has been now brought to their attention largely by Gene Fox's and AEA, New Jersey AEA and others, that there are other ways that the city can tackle their capital needs in their wastewater system and make the necessary upgrades through public financing through the New Jersey Infrastructure Trust and other sources of money coming out of the federal government. So it's an example of turning things around. I wish that had been able to happen in my town, Egg Harbor City, but it was a little too late, and the public had not gotten engaged. But that's how we approached it here.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Rick. Moving on, we are going to be hearing next from Peggy Gallows.
Hi, everybody. I'm really glad to be part of this discussion, really important. Among the fallacies and misinformation associated with these kinds of discussions, we hear that selling is the only alternative. And this is often said when nobody has really looked into whether there are any alternatives or not. It's just presented that way. So the message that I want to send tonight is that there are alternatives. Next slide, please. Actually, the next one after that. Local water and sewer systems are already part of a support network, and they can and they do cooperate with neighboring systems in very small and very large ways. Regionalization itself as an answer is not new. It's been done here in New Jersey for decades. Some towns work together under arrangements called authorities. Some have joint meetings. There are several regional state agencies that take care of water and sewer: Passaic Valley Water Commission, Passaic Valley Sewer Commissions. Public systems can partner on operations and just about anything. And I have some examples on this slide here of some systems that are doing that type of cooperation. Manasquan River Regional runs the Holmdel collection system. Plainfield Area Regional provides maintenance and stormwater management for some of its towns. Western Monmouth Utility Authority runs a Monmouth County coordination group for public systems in Monmouth County. There's no reason that we can't do more of this. Communities should consider regionalizing, and they can initiate discussions about sharing staff. They can initiate discussions about having a sewer collection system that's run by the Regional Sewage Treatment Authority. And by the way, many communities also purchase water from other utilities. Speaking of cooperation, one example of that is Mount Laurel, which purchases water from Willingboro MUA, but it also purchases water from New Jersey American. And I want to mention here that there are at least 40, I think more than 50 probably, public water systems that are purchasing water from New Jersey American. So their customers indirectly are also experiencing the costs associated with privatization, and that pressure will increase as the rate of privatization goes on. Next slide, please. Some water and sewer utilities, especially the small ones, really don't know about all of the assistance that's available to them. Rick mentioned the water bank. The water bank has very favorable borrowing terms for public systems and can provide technical assistance. They also have a very small water assistance program for systems that have fewer than 1,000 connections. And they provide planning and design and other types of assistance in that program. The Department of Community Affairs has the Local Assistance Bureau, which is kind of a free consulting service for municipalities. They can help a municipality on any topic, but that also includes water and sewer assistance. The New Jersey Water Association has funds through the USDA to provide much free assistance to utilities. They can provide assistance with consumer confidence reports, line location, drone flight inspections and mapping, funding consultation, engineering, compliance with the lead and copper rule, wellhead protection, water supply planning, all of these things, and this is free assistance that is available. Jersey Waterworks maintains a funding tracking list that people can refer to, and our association, AEA, has a New Jersey water utility sector peer-to-peer network, which is very similar to the local assistance bureau type of program. And then the last point I want to make on the last slide is it's been talked about already why this is staying public is such an important thing, and why there can be why there are so many good reasons to do it. However, I do want to point out that staying public does not mean your rates will never rise. These utilities still have to be maintained, and rates have to be are the main way that they're paid for. But in a time when we are heading into when the world is going to be more water stressed than it's ever been, maintaining public control is really, really important. And it is the least expensive way to provide the service. And that's all I have. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks so much, Peggy. All right, next up, we are going to hear from Denise Coyne. Denise has lived in Gloucester Township for 45 years and has spent the past 7 years advocating for better representation, transparency, and accountability in local governance. Denise is committed to informing the community about important topics that impact us all. And tonight, Denise is going to talk to us about key concerns of the proposed sewer sale in Gloucester Township.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this very important topic. It appears it's becoming more important every day. But here in Gloucester Township, our administration and our council are pushing the sale of our sewer to pay off a $64 million debt that has been accumulated over the years. And it really, as far as I'm concerned, has nothing to do with any operational issues of our sewer. We used to have an MUA last year, Municipal Utilities Authority, and it functioned extremely well. Our sewer system was very well maintained. It was in good shape. The employees did an excellent job. I don't think there was anybody in the township that had any complaints about the way our MUA operated. And last year, the council dissolved our MUA, saying it would save the residents money. And in the year since the dissolution, they've been unable to tell us how much money was saved, if any money was saved. We were told that a financial analysis was not done on that. So the MUA was dissolved, and at the time they told us that the dissolution of the MUA would preserve the sewer in the township. And now here we are, and the council's decided to sell it. So there were two bids on the system, one from New Jersey American Water for $143 million, and one from Aqua for $52 million, I believe. So there was a huge difference between the two bids. And New Jersey American Water has bid $90 million in capital improvements to our sewer system, which our engineer had to do a report for the dissolution and presented it to the local finance board, and they said our sewer system was in great shape. But New Jersey American Water thinks it needs $90 million of capital improvements. And as we heard earlier in this discussion, the capital improvements goes towards how much money they can make in profits. So if they put $90 million worth of capital improvements into our system, that means New Jersey American Water makes more money in profits. And the reality is the residents of Gloucester Township will pay that in their bills along with everybody else that is a client of New Jersey American Water in New Jersey. So we also have a unique situation here in Gloucester Township because our mayor is employed by New Jersey American Water. He's the director of government affairs and business development, I believe is his title. So I guess it's important for us to question whether this deal truly serves the best interests of the community when there's a potential for personal benefit in this for the mayor. So there's that. And then a huge thing that has been a problem here is our council and our administration has not been very transparent with the residents throughout this deal. And we kind of just happened to notice that this, the put the sewer out for bid appeared on the council agenda. And there was never a workshop on it. There was never a community meeting on it. There was never a discussion with the residents. Hey, we're $64 million in debt. We need to do something here. It just showed up on a council agenda. So we've spent the last several months trying to educate the residents that, hey, this is happening. This is what it's going to mean to you if it happens, and trying to find the benefit to the residents in this deal is very hard because there really, as far as I'm concerned, is not a whole lot of benefit for the residents. The residents are going to end up with higher sewer bills. The township is going to get a huge infusion of money that they can use to pay off their debt. And the residents are going to end up paying all this money back. So it's really hard to, find how this is in the best interest of the residents. Our sewer was functioning fine. It was in great shape. We don't need to sell it. It's not like the township is broke and needs money to fix something that's broke. That's not the case at all. So the township now has a bullet point list on their website saying how they plan on spending the additional money that's left over after paying off the township's debt. And again, there's been no input from the residents on those decisions. So they're planning on, putting $10 to $15 million towards sports. And the residents we were never even told that that was something that they were thinking about doing. It just appeared on the township's website. So, once our sewer's sold, it's gone forever. We can't get it back. And the reality is the sale of the sewer isn't going to fix the problem that the township wants to sell the sewer for. The problem is overspending and overborrowing, and that problem is still going to be there. And the infusion of cash from New Jersey American Water isn't going to fix that problem. So that's our situation here in Gloucester Township.
Thank you, Denise. Next up, we're going to hear another perspective on this issue on privatization from the local ground view. So we'll be hearing from David Waldman, who is a Hopewell Borough resident since 1983, a retired professional coffee taster, coffee roaster, coffee tea espresso equipment importer, a professional studio musician, entertainment lawyer, and record company executive, and the immediate past president of the Northwest New Jersey Beekeeper Association. David is going to talk to us some about what's at stake in Hopewell with a water system and how the community was able to organize to make sure that they get control of the future of the system. So, David. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, thank you, Kate. Appreciate it. I am so humbled by my presenting colleagues here. I have no credentials on the subject matter that we're talking about. I'm just a passionate, concerned citizen. And one caveat, I'm speaking on behalf of my own opinions as a private citizen. I'm not, so if I make any mistakes or overstatements, all the opinions are mine. And I stand behind my opinions, but I don't want anybody to think that I'm a member of some organization. I'm just a passionate community member. So baseline statistics, Hopewell Borough. We're just over 1,900 people. We have maybe 750 households, 764 service connections, which puts us under the 1,000. We're very, very small. We've been self-reliant for over 1,000 years, 100 years, sorry, for our water infrastructure. We've had 4 to 5 wells since I've been here. We are a classic exemplar referred to frequently of the green belt in the state of New Jersey, where we have provided an entire circle of perpetually preserved lands around our property, around our borough. We have a relatively concentrated area for service. It's about 0.72 square miles. We have 10.5 miles of mains. We have 7.2 miles of customer-owned lines, 229 water main valves, 77 fire hydrants, and we maybe use 38 to 40 million gallons a year. Just to give you an idea of how small we are, but you know, we have infrastructure, and we're, I think, the prototype or the stereotype, the stereotype of sort of aging infrastructure in a small town confronted with the, you know, the Damoclean sword of privatization. So our property taxes are super high. We've got COA housing. It's a relatively high income democratic community. And our reservoir, it was built in 1914. We only have one of those 4 to 5 wells that I mentioned that's working right now, groundwater well, that provides 60% of the needs of our town. The leak rate was 45%. We've got it down to 25 to 30. It needs to be 15. That's crazy. So when you start looking at our monthly and annualized costs, we're spending money that we have to pass on to our customers for stupid things like leaks. And I'll get into this a little bit later, and the fact that for the last 20 some odd years, we haven't spent enough money on infrastructure. So, you know, the reason that I think our rates, and I'll get into this, are high is because we've delayed a lot of expenses that now we have to amortize in our quarterly billing. So we've got a ton of lead goosenecks on the county road that's going to cost us over $1 million to remove. We've got hundreds of galvanized home connections that have to be replaced. So we do purchase our shortfall now for X number of years from New Jersey American Water. So we're on a contract with them for the approximate 40% that we can't make up with well number 1. And when you look at comparable communities, we're right near Princeton. We're near Pennington, Rocky Hill, Lambertville, and Flemington. And having had a business in Flemington for almost 20 years, I can tell you, I have watched privatization get crazy. They're on their 3rd, I believe, owner. American Water, they just kept flipping it to other companies. And the water's, you know, they have boil alerts all the time. And it's, to my opinion, not a potable solution. So where do we go and what do we do? So PFAS, we were non-compliant according to tests done. We got a letter July 7th, 2022. So we have a way to fix that. We have fixed that problem. But now looking forward to April 26th, 2029 with the higher PFAS numbers, we are close to signing an award agreement from the DEP for $2.34 million to make our wells PFAS compliant for the forthcoming standard, which I think is incredibly good news. So what we have to do is take well number 4 and well number 6, remediate the PFAS, remediate the arsenic, and that's all done with $2.34 million, which unless we privatize and have to get it paid back, we've got significant expenses covered. So that's one thing we've looked at. We unanimously approved the borough on May 13th, 2024 to participate in the WEPA project, the Borough Council. And basically, as you all know, I'm stating what I think you all know, is it avoids, the referendum. So just mentioning as a passing footnote that in my opinion, as a reformed, non-practicing lawyer, there's been a fair amount of recent legislative evisceration of the existing rate control mechanisms. So when we talk about DSIC and RESIC and FMV and stuff like that, those are all, to my mind, enemies of the process that don't make things easier for us. So long story short, a neighbor and friend of mine, Gigi Glazer, who's been a member of FWW, got together with the Central Jersey organizer, Charlie Cradaville, and we put together a plan to petition our town of under 2,000 people, and we only had about 2 weeks to do it. Long story short, Charlie was very organized with maps and households and an app that we could put on our smartphones. And 7 or 8 of us, I believe that's right, we just went knocking on doors. And within not that much time, within maybe a weekend or 2 weekends, we got over 220 something signatures, only needing 121 to meet the threshold. So we met the threshold. We've been informed by the overseers that this cannot be on a referendum until November 2025. So we've got some time now to get our work done. So capital needs, it looks like based on our infrastructure assets timeline that everybody's required to undertake now, we might need $9 to $10 million. And getting back to what Peggy was talking about, and Peggy and I have talked about this before, we need alternative solutions. And what we're thinking of is, how can we get, in addition to the 2.34 million that we think we're going to be granted, how can we come up with another $8 to $10 million over the next 5 to 10 years to keep the wolves at bay and take care of ourselves being self-reliant? Technically, if we can make this work and we can borrow the money with either 50% loan forgiveness or even like a 4% or 5% interest or lower, we can have $75,000 a year operational and maintenance costs starting in 2026, and we will have no need, as we see it, and this is in the words of the Borough Council, we will have no need for New Jersey American Water after 2025 except for emergencies. So that's got me so incredibly motivated that I'm reaching out to all of the experts that are my co-panelists here tonight and saying, please help me figure out how we can raise this kind of money one way or another creatively, either with a combination of benefactors or a combination of people who will give loan forgiveness or trust organizations. Help me figure out how we can do this, because we are so close to being able to avoid the monster. That in a nutshell is where we're at.
All right.
I hope I wasn't too mushy, so.
No, that was perfect. And you actually queued us up for exactly where we want to go next. So now that you've heard from experts on this issue about why protecting our public water systems is so important, and you've also heard from organizers about how we can do this work, that it's challenging, but that it can be done and must be done. We would like to share some calls to action, so we do need support from everyone on this call tonight. We can all work together to protect water systems across the state. So specifically, we're asking folks if they will lend a hand and make some phone calls to voters in the municipalities where this is going to be on the ballot. So we need people to make some calls to 3 towns. We're going to be dropping the link in the chat in just a second. So Manalapan, South Orange, and Gloucester Township. Again, this is going to be on the ballot in these towns. They're going to have a chance to decide whether to keep their systems public and locally controlled, or whether to sell them to corporate water companies. And we would like your help in getting the word out, as you've heard now from multiple folks, and from the stories that Rick has shared about, successful campaigns. So much of it is just about talking to people. I saw in the chat there were some folks saying, how do we find out about this information? This isn't always covered by local press. So if you can lend a hand, we would love to have people sign up for a phone bank shift or more than one shift, and make some calls. So these are easy calls to make. It's telling people about a local issue that's going to be on their ballot and how it can impact them. And the other thing that we'd like to ask you all to do is to join one of the regional Food and Water Watch teams in your area. So New Jersey Food and Water Watch is organized regionally. So as I shared, I'm the South Jersey organizer for Food and Water Watch. Charlie is our Central Jersey organizer. Sam DeFalco is our North Jersey organizer. So there's going to be a link in the chat already there to join the team. And then you will be in the loop on this issue and our ongoing campaigns on issues of water, climate, and to be part of this movement with us where you are. So again, please do take a second to check out those 2 calls to action. If you can make some phone calls, it will really be so impactful in this election cycle. And again, we want to be working with all of you long term. So wherever you are in Jersey, click that link so that you can be part of the movement in your area. So having said that, I would like to take some time for a little Q&A and let folks ask questions that you have for our experts here tonight. I know that we had some questions in the chat, so maybe we could start with those. So there was a question asking, can townships reverse things and go back to local government control if they sell? I don't know if there's anyone in particular.
Well, I know Mary will have something to say about that, but I'll just say quickly, it's very, very expensive. It is extremely difficult. It has been done. I think Monterey, California is actually trying to do it right now. But it is a very difficult task because they have to come up with a large
Money.
amount of money to buy the asset that they used to own back. I don't know
Hey,
if Mary has anything to add.
why don't you tell me about Bayonne?
Oh, yeah. Bayonne was in 2012 was among the first to participate in a private equity deal with KKR. KKR and what was then United Water partnered, and Bayonne had a huge municipal debt that they needed to address, and they also had a lot of infrastructure needs. They weren't fixing the system. So they had this concession deal that they signed that was a 40-year concession. So while the city still owns the water and sewer systems, it really doesn't control them at all. And they promised at the time, they promised flat rates for 4 years. But what people did not understand and was not explained in any of the newspaper articles I read was that they would that if the revenue targets were not met, that they would be permitted to raise the revenue through the ratepayers. In other words, rates would go up, and that is exactly what happened. After 2 years, the rates did go up in spite of the promises because people didn't really understand the concession agreement. And KKR sold its interest at a very, very good profit a few years after that. And now it's owned by another private equity firm. The interest is owned by this firm. So this is a big problem with concession agreements, that they are very hard to understand. Middletown, Pennsylvania also had a situation like that, and they sued because they wanted to, they said, we didn't understand the terms of this deal. And the judge said a contract is a contract. And so they couldn't reverse it.
The only thing I'll add to this is that for folks going to the ballot this November, consider it a permanent decision. It's so hard to buy your system back that this is a permanent decision and a permanent loss of control. There have been really successful municipalizations. I don't have a lot of examples from New Jersey, though. We're seeing it more out in California and New York, Missoula, Montana. There are very successful cases, but it's a lengthy fight. It's often a legal fight. Usually a city will have to use its eminent domain powers because the company will refuse to sell it back to the municipality. So again, when you go to the polls, when you're considering a privatization in your town, consider it a permanent decision.
Other questions? If people want to drop your questions in the chat, that works. Or if you want to raise a hand and come off mute and ask the experts.
I saw the question concerning the Camden County Utilities Authority. So the Gloucester Township would have an agreement, a separate service agreement for with the County Utilities Authority for treatment of wastewater, not for drinking water. That would stand alone, even with a new owner. But if town by town by town, the member towns of the regional authority, in this case Camden County, begins to be dominated by private equity firms or private water utilities, they will begin to start putting pressure on the county authority for whatever reason they want. And so that's a dynamic that would come later. But in the beginning, it should have no impact on Gloucester Township.
And I want to mention that before the 2015 law, which I think was probably written by American Water, any change of a municipal system had to be voted on. What that law did was eliminate the vote. So it's just the public officials that make the decision. And you have public officials who are sometimes not very responsible, and they build up all those loans. So to bail themselves out, they sell the water and the sewer system so they can use that money to pay for the loans that aren't related to the water and sewer system. It's a real, local officials taking care of themselves instead of their population.
Yeah, sounds like very much what Denise was talking about. It's happening in Gloucester Township. Other questions that people want to ask? Again, chat is fine, or if you want to come off mute and ask your question.
And I'll just add that's also happening in Central Jersey. The Regional Sewage Treatment Authority there. I think there are 3 of its member towns that have now been purchased. Their sewer collection systems have been purchased by New Jersey American. And I fully expect what Rick is discussing to happen at some point, that it just becomes, well, why don't we just do the whole thing?
I had a quick question. Here in Hudson County, we already have, I think, Suez, so it's already privatized. Aside from, I guess, rates going up and that being inevitable, has there been any instances of privatized water systems degrading in service or quality, and not being able to do about, that?
The BPU has no control over authorities at all. It only has a control over the private utilities. They do have to approve if they're acquiring a municipal utility, but it's pretty minor. They really can't protect customers like we would want them to. No.
So if there's a degrading in water quality, or if there's, like something to do with, I guess, like lead in pipes or whatever, I'm just noticing that it just water quality is a little bit different now. So if you do have
DEP has requirements that every municipal and any water system has to follow. They have to do regular testing. They have regular reports they have to put out to everybody, and DEP will issue orders to correct these problems. I was at DEP a long, long time ago, so I don't know how they're doing it now, but it's tough. And that law of 2015, the WAPA law, says there just has to be like really one order, and the town system can be taken over. But there are requirements. Sometimes DEP enforces, sometimes they don't enforce. I don't know how this DEP is handling it.
Well, and I'll add just that the point that we always try to make is that the model of service delivery isn't the key. The key is good management and good oversight and transparency. And corporate water utilities, water and sewer utilities have violations as well. No system based on its model of service delivery is going to be better, one better than another. There's really no definite research that says that private system is a better service delivery model. It just isn't.
Right, and you got to remember again, you have infrastructure expenses that have to be done. If you have a private utility, they also earn the rate of return, which is about 10% on top of that. If you have a municipal system, you don't have a rate of return. And if you have a municipal system, you don't have a rate base that they want to build and basically gold plate their system is frequently what some utilities do. That's a problem.
And Debbie, just as a private citizen, when I first met some of these FWW people about a month or so ago, I think there were at least 2 or 3 boil water advisories going on nearby from American Water. So it's delusional to think because you privatize it, you're getting some fancy new guarantee of great water. I mean, absolutely not.
Yeah, I just saw one that they had a boil water alert for Jersey City. And so my concern is, yeah, I don't think that we're going to be able to go back to public ownership, but it's just quality of water and, for health and safety. So as long as there's like some type of oversight or like rules and regulations in place for, I guess, these companies to follow. But yeah, I'm not. I don't really believe in them doing a bang up job there. So thank you.
DEP does require all the water systems, public, private, otherwise, to test. However, it is the utility that does the testing, and they supply that data on, I think, monthly basis, but on a regular basis to DEP. I know I live in New Brunswick, and I don't know if we went to prison or not, but one of our people in our municipal water system lied on those forms that we hadn't violated some structures, and we had, which is really pretty scary for living in New Brunswick where you have a lot of people. But it's the DEP doesn't do the actual testing. They don't have the staff to do that.
I have a question. Could someone just quickly review I think there were 3 communities that are on the ballot this year. Was it Manalapan, South Orange, and I'm not sure that I got the last.
Gloucester Township, which is in Camden County.
Oh, okay. Those are 3, Manalapan, South Orange, and Gloucester Township.
Yep, and that's the phone banking. Those are the places that we are asking people to pitch in and make some calls. Since we are 2 minutes over,
Could I just say there was one question there I don't think was answered about Camden County MUA. I think the MUAs in the state are generally very well operated. They're very professional people. They do their job, and the AEA works with that. And they also will help people out for municipal systems out for free. But the MUAs are good. So becoming a member of an MUA would also save regionalization, makes a lot of sense for a lot of things, this being one of them.
Thank you. Yeah, so before we wrap, I think that the mayor of South Orange is with us tonight. Thanks for joining us. And I think maybe had a question.
Yes,
So-
thank you so much, Kate. Thank you to Food and Water Watch for hosting this. I'm here to listen and learn. So my community is one of the ones that you might be calling our voters. I wanted to go through a little background and then ask a question to the professionals here. So for our community, we already receive our water from New Jersey American Water, and they also do our operations and maintenance. As a part of our process, we've been looking at this for 2 years. I know one of the speakers had cautioned against WIPA, and we didn't go the WIPA route for the same reasons you expressed concern, is the overall rate increase that would subsequently result from that and the unfairness of it. So we went the traditional route and we used the original cost less depreciation model. American Water gave us credits for a lot of the infrastructure work that we've been doing since we took our system back from a public entity that was actually falsifying water results to our community. In all of our engineering studies, we've done so many of them. We've done financial analyses. We've looked at both the short term of 5 years versus the long term of the next 30 years. And for us, everything continues to point to the sell option. This wasn't haphazard. It wasn't secret. We created a huge task force to talk about some of the state mandates coming down the pipeline that a lot of people know, lead lines, PFAs. How would you suggest I get better guidance from the professionals who can look specifically at our situation and make a case of why it's not good, other than New Jersey American Water makes a profit of 10%? Because I can say thoroughly, even with their 10%, it's much better than what we're currently doing and our projections on the infrastructure that we want to invest into our water system and already have been doing for the past several years.
I'd say Peggy or Rick should.
Yeah,
jump in on that.
I can address a couple of things. One is if they're already operating the system and all of that, if you can continue to own it, you have a much more leverage than if you give it up. Once you give it up, they own it. So holding on to it gives you leverage. You are going to be paying to remediate PFAS, if that's, say, one of the issues you're facing. You're going to be paying for that no matter what. You're going to be paying a lot more for it if you do it through a corporation. So the long-term impact on your ratepayers is what's really problematic here. The other factor is that they have what they call a common tariff. All of New Jersey American's customers in New Jersey are well, with some exceptions, are under the same tariff. And when they're permitted to recover the cost of an acquisition in their rates, that cost is being borne by all of their New Jersey customers. So when they buy a system in South Jersey, has no hydraulic and managerial, no connection to that system in the other part of the state, the ratepayers receive no benefit from that purchase. It is all a benefit to the shareholders, yet the ratepayers will pay for all or part of that acquisition. And this is the real pyramid scheme of the situation. Town A sells its system, and maybe they get some capital work that they need, and that's great, and their rates are flat for a few years. But then when American buys Town B, Town A is paying for that, and Town A is paying for Town B's capital work. When American buys Town C, then A and B are paying for that capital work. And this is their business model. In fact, they are focused more on New Jersey because the people in Pennsylvania, many residents, some of whom I think are on this call, took them on and opposed them. And so I was talking to someone from Pennsylvania and I said, thanks a lot, because now they've decided to focus more on New Jersey because of the flack that they ran into in Pennsylvania. And so they will continue to acquire systems. Pennsylvania and New
I'll
Jersey.
tell you, that was in the 2015 law. I left as a commissioner under Chris Christie in 2014 as a former director of the Water and Sewer Division and working for the BPU for 24 years. There's no way in hell that I would have let that happen, even just as a commissioner. I might have done a dissent, but it's outrageous. So, Mayor, with all honesty, as Peg said, you gotta correct these problems, but you could do it much more cost effectively because you're not going to gold plate the way that most utilities will gold plate their system, because every dollar that they spend for capital expense, they earn a rate of they can earn a rate of return on that. That's the problem with privatization. They want to put as much money as they can into the capital system.
Right, and not just in South Orange. That capital, that return on investment applies to all of their capital work, but South Orange will pay for it no matter where it's happening.
And the BPU allowed them in 2015 and after to do this statewide averaging. It's crap. It's not right. It's wrong. So the little old lady, and I don't know, Elizabeth, who's been paying a certain rate, the system is working fine. And then she's paying for some place down in South Jersey, up in North Jersey, where the place fell apart and American Water or Aqua has to improve the system. Everybody's paying for that. Everybody that's an American Water customer is paying for that. It's outrageous.
I guess the one just last question, if I can, on this one, since I'm one of the towns, is that most small municipalities already outsource or get infrastructure upgrades from private companies as well. There's not lots of nonprofit entities doing this kind of work, if any. So whether you're a sole proprietorship or you're an LLP, there's so many different models of companies who are already making money off of the work that we require for infrastructure. I'm a part of the joint meeting of Essex and Union County. Our rates just went up 17% on the public side. State health benefits are exceeding 20% right now. So these numbers don't come as a surprise. And so for the communities that went the WIPA route or went the the traditional ballot referendum route, I heard a little bit about how the rates increase, but have you compared the rate increases of New Jersey American Water versus what the infrastructure upgrades required of the municipality would be over the long term? Because I looked at Egg Harbor, I looked at some of the other ones. We reached out to their communities also, their mayors, their administrators, and we've gotten nothing but positive feedback from all the towns that we reached out to.
How long ago was it? Go ahead.
I could tell you here in Gloucester Township, New Jersey American Water wants to do $90 million in capital improvements. And the other bid that was received from Aqua said we needed 25 million in capital improvements. And the township itself had a 5-year capital plan where they were going to invest 21 million in improvements. So it's kind of astounding to me that New Jersey American Water wants to do $90 million of improvements in a system that our own township said would require 21 million.
And that's what I call gold plating.
Exactly.
Well,
it's comparing apples to oranges. When you hire a private contractor to do capital improvements, you still own the system, you represent the buyer, right? And there's protections there, and that's the city council or town council's job. When you sell the system, you have the fox guarding the hen house. You have the buyer and the seller, are one, and they have rigged the system to be able to go before the board and recover all those costs and a handsome rate of return on top of it.
Well, when you think about it, it's in the buyer's best interest and the seller's best interest to get the highest price possible. And the ratepayers are the ones that pay that back. So, I mean,
and that's what the 2015 law allowed. Before that, I mean, they call it fair market value, but it's whatever they pay, whatever the cost to pay to buy that system, that's included. That's ridiculous. It's not been done that since 1911 when we started utilities. And all of a sudden, this 2015 law, which Steve Sweeney was the Senate president when it went through, for New Jersey American was ridiculous. But, you know, it's never been done that way. It was done that way, and it's fair market value, which has no rhyme or reason as how it's defined in the WIPA.
Well,
Thank
correct
you all
me
for
if
your
I'm wrong.
time.
Yeah, I want
Sorry.
to.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, and that on southorange.org, we have 3 community forums coming up, and we welcome anybody from Food and Water Watch and anybody participating on the video to come for the full presentation and scrutinize it very closely, because we would love your guidance.
Wonderful. And I think that I'm not
So,
speaking.
I don't know if
You would probably be willing to.
I don't know if anyone could hear me.
Uh,
Hello?
hello?
We can.
Hey, this is Lissa Ludinich from Southwestern PA. I am one of the ones that was fighting. And, you know, we have shut down some of the stuff, but PA American Water owes our sewage system. And I'm going to tell you, they went and asked for price increases multiple times. My sewage bill is 3 times my water bill. And I am on a fixed income, but I have neighbors in my community that are on even more fixed income. That elderly people are now to the point that they have a big pot of water on their stove that they warm up on a daily basis to wash themselves. They reuse the same pot of water. And now PA American Water did come up with this H2O plan and program. These people didn't qualify for it. And those that did qualify for it, they got a one-time grant of $500. How far do you think $500 goes in a year? So they come up with all these great plans and wonderful ideas that they sell you, but in the end, it really does nothing for your community. My street has metal plates on it in the middle of the road. Where the sewage line runs, where homeowners' lines connect to the middle of the road. Our insurance policies on our lines go to the curb. I am getting 3-4 times a week things in the mail where they're trying to sell me their sewage line insurance. I know people in my community that have purchased that, were told they needed to have their line replaced, and the insurance only covered up to 10 grand, and they had to pay the rest out of their pocket. This is nothing but a scam to line the shareholders' pockets.
Yeah, thank you.
This affects the whole community. Understand what you're about to sign on to.
Yeah, that's great information. Thank you so much for sharing that. I did want to, as a final question, I think Bill Ferguson had raised his hand before. Bill, did you still have a question to ask?
No, I didn't have a question to ask. I wanted to respond to Mayor Sheena. I am in southeastern Pennsylvania. Our sewer system was acquired by Aqua under a fair market value, and our sewer rates have essentially doubled. I have gotten involved fairly deeply in acquisitions and whatnot. But Mayor Sheena, you said that you had done or had done for you various analysis that 5 and 30 years says the thing to do was sell. Those are bad analysis. I can tell you that point blank. I'll send you an email to get in contact with you. I would like to see the analysis if you could share them with me. And I'll show you some other of my analysis that goes on fairly generically, that you just can't sell to a for-profit company and come out with a better result. It does not happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Bill?
All right, so it's a good bit after the hour, so we will wrap at this point. But again, I do want to please ask everyone to get involved on this issue. Again, it will be on the ballot in towns up and down the state. and we could use your involvement. And yeah, please, again, do get involved in one of your regional teams. So that's in the chat. Maybe Sam could drop that link one more time to sign up to join the North Jersey team, Central Jersey team, or South Jersey team and work with me. And yeah, we really want to have you as part of this movement. So thanks again to everyone that joined. Special thanks to our experts for taking the time to share all of the information they have on this very timely and important topic. And thank you, David and Denise, for being here and sharing all the great work you're doing in your community. We really appreciate all of you. So thanks so much. And yeah, we hope to see you in the work. Take care. Have a great night.
Bye.